Dear painters and friends, in the last video we prepared a pedestal for the figure. We glued the part together, putting the joints and modeled the stove on the missing part of the back wall and path. In today's video we will look at the figure and connect the pedestal with the figure. The figure is quite old. In France there was, and maybe still is, a magazine focused on painting miniatures, figurines, completely in French. Even so, it did not discourage me and I subscribed to the magazine for a whole year. The annual subscriptions also included a figure. And this is the very figure that has been lying in my box for years, waiting for the right time to come. The figure is produced by Pegaso models and is completely made of white metal. To clean all the parts, I use files of various shapes and a scalpel. The advantage of all metal figures is that you can press the file more during cleaning. The disadvantage is that you can't do the kind of detail you can with the resin figure. On the other hand, too much detail is not good either. While cleaning, I listen to music, drink coffee and think about the color combination, heraldry and the colored base. The figure is very well made. All the parts fit together, there are no big gaps anywhere. During pinning, I always try to put 2 wires in each leg. It happened to me that when I put only 1 wire in the heel of the leg, the figure fell backwards and rise to the toes of the feet. That's why I added 1 more wire, just a few millimeters, and the problem is solved. I also put wires in other parts such as the hands or the helmet that he holds in his left hand. The helmet is made of 2 parts. The bottom part is a chainmail hood that hangs down, and then the helmet itself with the visor. I decided to glue the figure together as much as possible. I didn't find a place that would be difficult to paint anywhere. That's why I attached the bottom part of the helmet first, drill a hole, some oil paint, attach the bottom part of the helmet to find the place where I need to drill and drill a hole on the bottom part. Then all you need is a piece of wire, paper clip, super glue and 1 part is done. Sometimes oil paint doesn't help to mark the drilling location. There is a gap between the parts, so I have to use a little tuck-it rubber. Just a little is enough to fill the gap. I press the parts together and the place where I need to drill is marked in the rubber. I mark the place with a needle and only then remove the rubber and start drilling. Once I have the left hand ready, I just need to glue the top part of the helmet and the left hand. Everything fits together nicely and there are no big gaps or other errors. I attach the right hand that holds the sword in the same way. First I drill a hole in the right shoulder, then I mark the place where I will drill and drill the hole. A short piece of wire, some glue and I glue the right hand to the body. If I get a lot of glue, I use a tissue to remove the excess glue. If I didn't do this and glue the part, the glue would be pushed to the surface and I would have to clean everything. With metal models, this is not such a big problem, but with the resin models, it is. The glue will start to react on the surface and when removing it, we can damage the surface. Once I have the figure glued like this, I can start thinking about where I will place it on the base. In my case, it is already solved in that I want that figure to be visible. This is why it cannot be at the top of the stairs, where it will be hidden behind a railing. That is why it will have to be at the bottom under the stairs. Now just place it there properly. When I have chosen a place for the night, I mark the bottom of the legs with oil paint and place it in the expected place. This transfers the oil paint to the base and marks the place where the night will be. Then the rogue work begins. I drill holes and start removing materials to create a place where I will place the knight. At first, I used a hand drill and a scalpel. Then I switch to an electric tool where I have various attachments for grinding, cutting, etc. I grind for a while and then I try to see if the knight fits in the place. Then I grind again. It takes a while, but in the end I manage to place the knight on the base so that he doesn't fly in the air. That was the rogue work. Now the fine work. Putty and level the area around the feet so that it is not visible that it was drilled or cut, so that the weaver has the feeling that the figure is all from one box. I fill the holes made by the drill with putty. I soak the bottom of the legs in water so that the putty does not stick to the knight and press the figure in the place. This fills the gap and marks the places for drilling. After hardening, everything will fit together, the base and the legs of the figure. I also use putty to complete the gaps between the base and the shore. I also finish the stones to really create the impression that the knight belongs to the base. It is a bit of tedious job, where you layer the putty and keep trying. Unfortunately, there is no way to avoid it. I do all this work before painting. I can't imagine how I would do it if the base and the figure were already painted. I use a coarse and fine brush to finish the stone structure and let it dry until the next day. In the meantime, I work on another project. The next day I drill holes in the base, insert wires and connect the figure to the base. I don't glue anything. I just put it together and checked. I turned the base upside down and the figure doesn't fall off. Good job. Even though the figure is well made and cast, I found small gaps. These need to be filled with putty. I use a 2-component putty which I mix in a 50-50 ratio and fill the gaps. The working tool I use is a toothpick and finger moistened in water. I use sandpaper to adjust the surface of the base, first with coarse sandpaper and then with fine. And when I have everything ready, I can start the compressor and prepare to airbrush. I apply grey primer to the entire base and figure. I work slowly and apply thin layers. The grey primer will cover the metal material from which the figure is cast and thus prepare the base for the next color layers. It will also show the preparation mistakes that I overlooked during cleaning and that still need to be fixed. I admit that when I see a knight standing by the castle stairs like this in grey, I want to put it in a display case right away. It looks very nice. I am glad I choose such a base for this knight. On the other hand, I'm curious how it will all look in color. So let's get started. I will start with the base, because I have some ideas for colors, nature and accessories there. Thank you very much for watching until the end. I really appreciate it. See you soon.